This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Welcome to This Week in Connecticut. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dennis House. Trains are getting faster, but will they solve Connecticut's transportation crisis? Also, could our state get a presidential primary that actually mattered, like New Hampshire? And a Hartford suburb has big dreams thanks to its charismatic mayor. Plus, check out this super cool vehicle made in Connecticut. But what happened to it?
Right here, right now, is our opportunity together to make a transformational difference.
The future of travel in Connecticut, from faster trains to electric cars.
Riding with the Metro North has never been easier.
The express train will shave a considerable amount of time off your daily commute.
A lot of interest in Connecticut in electric vehicles, but there's still a little bit of skepticism. I think we're at the tipping point.
The countdown to Connecticut's primary. Could an earlier date on the calendar encourage better turnout?
Particularly in the summer, that
they're on vacation.
Yes, so it makes it difficult.
And a local mayor looking to put his town on the map with some big ideas and a little personality.
I prefer to be called Mayor Mike. I don't wear a tie. I'm a guy who believes East Hartford's glass is half full. This gentleman believes it's half empty. So I'm out there trying to change those minds.
First up this week, The Lead, a push to keep transportation projects on track. The topic was front and center at a big regional conference in Hartford this week, with more than 300 transit officials from around the Northeast taking part. One of the big things that came out of it could help make your next train ride to New York City a little quicker. Governor Lamont announced that 6 new express trains on the New Haven line and 7 new weekday trains on the Waterbury branch are now rolling. We'll discuss that in just a moment, but first, here's Jody Latina with details.
The new express trains from New Haven to Grand Central in New York get you there in as little as 1 hour and 39 minutes, 20 minutes faster.
New York City, great place to visit. Wouldn't want to live there, but it's easier to get there now.
Governor Ned Lamont keeping a promise to speed up service. It's part of Time for Connecticut. Metro North officials report they recently carried nearly 175,000 riders, nearly 70% of pre-pandemic levels. Weekends are busy.
Riding with the Metro North has never been easier.
The New Haven line has recovered 55% of its pre-pandemic weekday riders. Changing commuter hours and teleworking are big factors.
As more people have gone to 3-day weeks and 4-day weeks, so we're seeing earlier starts in the morning, we're seeing later at night, so we're adjusting.
At a conference of the Northeast Association of State Transportation Officials in Hartford, Lamont touted the $6 billion in federal funding the state will get over the next 5 years.
Right here, right now, is our opportunity together to make a transformational difference.
Connecticut DOT is recruiting for 206 additional positions like engineers and are backfilling retirements.
Right now, we're training everybody we can. We're getting to the vocational schools right now, getting them internships, apprentices, opportunity. I think we're going to be able to keep up.
Meantime, starting now, 7 new weekday trains will run on the Waterbury branch after completed safety improvements. They say it's a 47% increase in train service. On the Hartford to New Haven line, the state is increasing service with Amtrak. Trains are allowed to go 100 miles an hour. While construction is happening here at Union Station in Hartford on the Hartford line, they're offering off-peak bus service. Again, off-peak bus service during construction, which is expected to wrap up this fall.
For This Week, I'm Jody Latina.
Here to provide some insight into this is Jim Gilday. He is the chairman of the Connecticut Commuter Rail Council. And Mr. Gilday, good to see you here on the break.
How you doing, Dennis? Nice to be here.
Doing well, thank you. So let's talk about this high-speed train now to New York, knocking, what, 25 minutes off the trip?
Yeah, so yesterday was a big day, both in the area of, from a time perspective as well as an expansion perspective. And so the express train will shave a considerable amount of time off your daily commute to New York City. And they really accomplished that by having 4 stops. New Haven, Bridgeport, Stamford, and Grand Central. So they've cut out the stops.
I was reading, too, we have a lot of people commuting into Connecticut to work these days as well.
I think one of the really offshoots of COVID is then there's been a paradigm shift in the communication, the transportation patterns of our daily commuters.
How has the Hartford line transformed rail service? Because you see a lot of people going now from Hartford to New Haven into New York. Apparently you can do it for $52 round trip.
The Hartford line has certainly exceeded any expectation when it came to rail commuters. I will also tell you that currently out of all the lines, it has about 78% of its pre-COVID riders. So it is doing extremely well. And I think that, coupled with the Waterbury branch, which is at about 65% of its pre-COVID riders, really show that, again, that paradigm shift. There's a much heavier focus on intrastate transportation and not as much as, you know, New Haven to Grand Central. And that paradigm shift is important, and we as a state take advantage of that.
Mayor Neil O'Leary in Waterbury told me last year that people are actually buying homes from New York in Waterbury because of the commute. And
yesterday's 47% increase in train service on the Waterbury line will be huge for that economically distressed area.
Commissioner Giletti also proposed this week that eventually the CT Fast Track would be high-speed rail instead. What do you think of that?
Well, certainly I think I can envision there's a yearning for that. There is a ridership base for that. And so I can see where doing that makes sense, definitely.
What is the future of rail in Connecticut?
I think the future of rail does have to be, you have to continue to make it quicker. Time for Connecticut does call for, yesterday was just the elimination of stops to make the train quicker. So if you're in Stamford, if you're in Fairfield, you're not driving to Bridgeport to get somewhere quicker. So I think the future of rail is implementing that Time for Connecticut, where you eliminate curves, you rebuild bridges, and you allow for faster travel to get commuters places quicker, A. The second part of it is a greater emphasis on in-state travel, expanding the shoreline east, taking it to Groton, taking it to Westerly, taking it to Mystic, taking it to U.S. Boat, Pfizer, connecting that whole area. So I think it's reduction of speed, expansion, and electrification.
Exciting times ahead. Jim Gilday. He is the chairman of the Connecticut Commuter Rail Council. We thank you so much for this insight today. Thank you.
Take care.
And from faster trains to electric cars, there's a growing interest in these battery-powered vehicles in Connecticut, especially with gas prices still sky high. And as Mike Mascadrelli tells us now, finding a place to charge could soon be much easier.
As soon as you hit the pedal, it just brings a grin to your face, like this is what driving should have been.
EVs have long been thought of as a luxury vehicle, but Connecticut is trying to change that, providing more incentives to drive electric. On top of the $7,500 federal income tax credit, purchasing a new EV could get you up to $7,500 through the state's cheaper rebate program. There's also a $500 rebate from Eversource for your home charger. Getting the cost down is one thing. The state's also focused on eliminating range anxiety for drivers.
Charging stations aren't everywhere yet. I think we're at the tipping point. I think we are about to make a big investment in charging stations. We're building them out as we speak all around the state.
Now here's one of the latest Tesla charging stations being built in Rocky Hill, and any electric vehicle will be able to charge here. And all over the state, you will pretty soon see a lot more charging stations popping up, with the state receiving $53 million from the federal government to build these fast charging stations. That $53 million in new federal money will be allocated to the state over the next 5 years.
That's key, to look ahead 2-3 years, because clearly the market, the consumers want it.
As a member of EV Club of Connecticut, Paul Brerin is passionate about reducing greenhouse gases driving electric. His Tesla Model 3 remains the most popular EV in Connecticut. Although demand has increased due to rising gas prices, there's still one big thing stopping more EV adoption.
Back orders are a huge problem right now. Supply chain is hitting the whole auto industry, not just EVs. Right. It's the chips for window controllers. It's mundane stuff. It's not actually the battery pack.
There are over 21,000 registered EVs in Connecticut. That's still far from the state's ambitious 2025 goal of putting at least 125,000 on the road. I'm Mike Mascadrelli for This Week in Connecticut.
Also this week, we are getting a clearer picture of which companies will be among the first to sell recreational marijuana in Connecticut. A state panel approved 16 applications, including 5 in Hartford, 3 in New Britain, and 2 for both Bridgeport and Waterbury. Middletown, Manchester, Southington, and Stamford each got 1. The head of the Social Equity Council says the recommendations reflect businesses that can do the work and that are at least 65% owned by local people, not big companies. Election season is upon us and our local races are heating up. Next, we'll be joined by the chairs of both the Democratic and Republican parties in Connecticut to talk about the midterms, plus the changes they want to see for our state's presidential primary in 2024. We'll be right back.